Thank you. How's everybody doing? Good, I hope. Now, does Benjamin Netanyahu have a problem? Has he suddenly got a conscience? Now, the worst thing in the world is for a dictator or for any military leader of any kind to have a conscience when he set out a plan. But it seems as if he might have a conscience, which is good. No, it's very good. I'm not saying anything bad about having a conscience. It is the best thing in the world to have a conscience. It can stop you going over that line. Unfortunately, he didn't do that with Hitler. He certainly did not have a conscience. But it looks as if the United Nations, with the last few talks, seem to have resonated. Now, I don't know whether this is just going to stall the plans temporary, because we've just heard in the news that the Biden administration has okayed a lot of billion-dollar weaponry that's heading for Israel. But if it's a pause and those on the ground in Gaza can receive some food, medicines, and things that have been denied to them for the last 2 years. Has it been 2 years this has been going on? Or is that Ukraine? Has Ukraine been going on for 2 years? You see, you lose track of all these conflicts, don't you? There's that many in the world. And we've still got another one to come yet, haven't we, with China and Taiwan? I just want to know how the Anglo-American Empire is going to fund all these three wars. How they're going to do it. Yes, they are still the world power, the most powerful force on the world at the moment, but maybe their time is coming to an end. Maybe they're just showing signs, the same signs maybe that the Roman Empire showed when they eventually fell. It was through a breakdown of infrastructure and abject corruption that brought them down. They'd lost all moral sense of decency, and nobody knew right from wrong. Usually when an empire gets that bad, it's virtually finished. And it does seem as if that's what's happening within the Anglo-American Empire. There are so many liars that are in positions of power, so you don't know who to trust. But Antonio, and not just Antonio from the United Nations, one of the co-speakers the other day, he sort of raised up the level of seriousness with his talk in a way in which I have never known the United Nations to speak. I've never known them to be. I mean, it's almost as if they're fighting for their very existence, because what are they really? The United Nations, they're an organization that is supposed to bring world peace to the world, which we know as Christians is only something that God's Messianic kingdom will do. But it's almost as if the United Nations, with Antonio and his other assistant speakers, they've got to a point now where they are getting quite brash, aren't they? They're standing up to military dictators. I've yet to see them stand up to the Anglo-American world power in a sort of significant way. But just recently, they've almost as good as said that food has got to be allowed in. And so you look at Benjamin Netanyahu now, and all of a sudden, he is not as gung-ho, which is a good thing. He's not as sure, because he knows that he's going to lose international appeal, and he could be out of office. In fact, that's virtually where I see it going next, that they will probably have him replaced. So I suppose this is his last stand. it's like a General Custer, isn't it? Really, it's the last stand. It's a chance for him to make a mark on the world and leave a lasting legacy. But also in his eyes, he will see that his position as the powerful force within Israel, he will see that as quite lasting because he's been there before a lot of the American presidents. And he's spoken to one or two of them in a very forceful way. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos where Israel has stood up because of him against Western dominance. I think he rattled Bill Clinton. I seem to remember him speaking very forcefully about Israel's intentions, and he kind of lectured Bill Clinton on the troubles within the Middle East. And I think it really did get to Bill Clinton because I think afterwards he said, "Who the fuck?" I think he swore. Yeah, I think who the fuck does he think he is? You know, we're the superpower in the world, meaning the Anglo-American Empire. But that's the kind of leader he is. He believes that Israel has a God-given right to live in peace without being attacked, without. See, this is for me. It gets a bit tricky because you do see that a lot of Palestinian land has been sort of just taken. So I think it's a bit political. It's a bit personal. You know, it's six of one and half a dozen of the other. You know, it's not as clear cut as you'd really like it to be. But you can't deny the fact that he's been there quite a while, and he stood up for Israel's interest. And I suppose that's why he's lasted as long as he has. But I foresee that if he doesn't bend to America, if he doesn't bend to their wishes, they'll find out a way of getting rid of him. Because he's useful to America, but only if they can pat him on the head every now and then and say, well, you know, you do this next. You know, like Great Britain, really. We get a good pat on the head off the United States every now and again. Oh, you've done very well. You're pursuing our interest. What you're doing suits us, so carry on. And I think it'll be the same with Benjamin. And if he doesn't, and he sticks his obstinate foot forward in his political aspirations, and is no longer useful to the United States, then I reckon he'll be going. We'll find a way of getting rid of him. Because the United States, the Anglo-American Empire, still want to be the top dog. And they'll do everything they can to stay on top. And they will have all their political helpers along the way. And some of them, you know, they know they're being used. And I think in a lot of ways, I think Benjamin knows he's being used by the United States. And I think that that's why sometimes he rebuffs. But he has to bow every now and again. And I think that what's happening at the moment is he's bowing. He's realizing that he just can't be too haughty. He can't be too obstinate, or they could pull the financial rug from under him. And then he would find it difficult. And if he was alone in this fight against Palestine, the Arab world would see that as victory. And maybe they would then start supporting Hamas even more than they are. Who knows? For me, it's quite simple. They're all warmongering bastards, a lot of them. And in between the warmongering, you have the United Nations a sometimes squeaky voice, but just recently their voice has got a lot more deeper, a lot more forceful. I don't know why, because they never were in the past. They'd only squeak, wouldn't they? A little mouse. But something's changed within the United Nations. I've never heard them speak so fervently in my life as they have over the Palestine issue. That's my thoughts anyway. But what do you think?